You're listening to Mind, Body, Home with your host, Sara Ann. I have a treat for you today. Suzanne Roynon is an international interiors therapist and Feng Shui expert based in the UK. Today, Suzanne and I are talking real estate and how Feng Shui can help you whether you are buying or selling. In addition, I share my personal journey with moving to and from 3 states in just under a year. We covered a lot in this episode, but there are 3 necessary steps to a successful real estate transaction. 2 of those might be new to you, and those are decluttering, detaching, and declaring your manifesto for what is next. When you're buying or selling a home, you are being energetically guided to what is next for you on your life journey. So why not declare what it is you want? Suzanne and I have similar methodologies in our practices. She helps you look differently at your possessions and your clutter so that you can begin to understand how they are affecting your relationships, your health, your finances, your successes and happiness or lack thereof. Suzanne then helps you to create a home and an office space that propels you forward rather than keeping you tied to the past. Suzanne has appeared in countless national and international media outlets to share the advantages of using Feng Shui and living an interiors therapy lifestyle. Media outlets include BBC, Grand Designs Live, The Clean and Tidy Home Show, as well as Metro, Sunday Times Style, Architectural Digest, Natural Health, Homes and Gardens, and many, many others. Lastly, be sure to grab a copy of Suzanne's award-winning bestseller, Welcome Home: How Stuff Makes or Breaks Your Relationship. She is a wealth of information, and I am so grateful to have her here on the podcast today. Please enjoy my conversation with Suzanne Roynon.
Hi,
Hi, how are you?
I am very well. What a lovely opportunity to speak to somebody who is
Yes.
so much on my wavelength.
Oh, I know. I know. The more I was reading about you and your practice, I'm like, oh, we're going to have a good conversation. We are very aligned.
We are so aligned.
Thank you so much for being on the Mind, Body, Home podcast. I love connecting with other Feng Shui practitioners, but I have to say, I have not interviewed very many in the past. I've had guests on of all other backgrounds, but this summer I wanted to highlight a few practitioners because what I'm finding is we all have those, foundational principles of Feng Shui, and we may have different schools of thought, right? But I love finding people who have a certain niche. And yours really spoke to me because it's very similar to mine. So I was really excited to talk with you because I think that we can riff on so many different levels and conversations. So welcome.
Thank you. It's an absolute pleasure to be here.
Great. So we're going to talk a little bit about buying and selling real estate. And I have to be honest, I wanted to talk a little selfishly because I'm going through a lot of real estate transaction in my life. But buying and selling real estate, right? It's emotionally draining for many people. It can take a very large toll. It's an energetic drain, right? Especially when you're in London, but here in the US, the market is a little bit crazy. We have very high interest rates. People are feeling very unsettled about all of those things. So it's hard to look past that and feel comfortable buying or selling, right? So I guess where we could start is maybe we start with selling a home. And
Sure,
what are
sure. The
some of the,
importance of it.
yeah, the important, and what, not only the importance of it, and what are the things that people can do that they don't know about, right? Because we know hiring a realtor, perhaps maybe doing some staging, those are all tactical and great things to do. But, even with those practices, homes might still sit on the market, right? And there's usually a deeper reason for that.
Yeah, and I think with the American market, I know at the moment it's totally bonkers. My daughter is in the States and they were looking for a house and they've just decided to put things off for a while. You put an offer in and then suddenly somebody else has offered another 100,000. It's not realistic for so many people, especially first-time buyers. So when you want to sell a house, obviously you're thinking you want to get really great buyers who aren't going to mess you around. You want to get the right price for it, the realistic price for the value of your property. And you want it to happen quickly and efficiently. So these things can all be helped with Feng Shui. But before we even get to the point of getting marketing photos done, before you consider whether you might stage or not, because staging's all very well if you're not going to live in a property. But if you've got to stay living there, staging can be completely impractical. And these are real homes that we're selling. Here in the UK, it's very, very unusual to sell an empty property or a purely staged property. It's much more likely that you're working around the family who are living there. The family might go out while you do a viewing, but then they're back in. So the cat's there, the dog's there, everything's there. So when we're looking at starting this selling process, and this is something that is going to be so close to your heart, always start with decluttering. Even before you've found a realtor, before you have actually made a decision to sell, get in there and look at every single thing that you have in your house. Ask whether it's serving you now. Ask whether it would be moved to your new place. I mean, especially if you're downsizing, for example. If you're downsizing from a house that's 5,000 square foot to a house that's 2,000 square foot, or even a smaller apartment, then the majority of your furniture and your possessions simply can't cope with you. So it's all about really understanding what's going on right now. What is surplus to your requirements? What is no longer serving you? And taking the initiative to deal with that now before you even get as far as contacting a real estate agent here in the UK, before you invite an estate agent to come and value your house. Because you see, if you value a house which is full of clutter, then your value drops. It is as simple as that. So many people cannot see through clutter. They can't see the bones of your property. They can't work out whether there are problems there, perhaps with the roof or with damp. If you have a cluttered property, you will lose thousands of pounds, thousands of dollars in comparison to what you might have got for it if you'd taken the initiative to just get in there, clear the stuff and make it look beautiful. And I'm not talking about staging. I'm talking about using your own possessions to create the home that is somebody's dream home. And I think when you're actually getting ready to sell a property, inevitably you're going to be going and looking at somewhere for yourself. So, just, does your dream property have a load of clutter in it? Is it full of clutter? Probably not. So if you want your home to sell as somebody else's dream property, then you have to think that way right from the beginning. So that is absolutely the first stage. And because I know that you are so big on this, I just felt that when we connected, it would just go, yes, right to the heart. This is so
100%.
important.
I totally appreciate that, as you already alluded to. And what was going through my mind as you're speaking is, yes, a home that is highly cluttered. If I'm looking at MLS photos and I see that clutter, I don't even want to see the house. And so, like, right off the bat, you're eliminating people from even coming to the home when that is how the photos have been taken.
And just the photos will make it feel heavy, unloved, unwanted. Overwhelm has set in. Perhaps they've been through a divorce. Perhaps they've inherited things that they didn't really want, that feel too guilty to let go. There can be all kinds of reasons. But when I'm working with my clients and we're getting a property ready to sell, we are actively looking at everything and deciding whether it has a future with them. And if it doesn't, is it still worth something to take to Goodwill, to sell perhaps? Or has it been around so long that actually it's lost its viability and the only place it can go is to trash. And these are decisions that we make in order to push the process forward very gently at their own speed. Once they've got the hang of it, though, and I'm sure you find this with your clients too, once they have the hang of understanding the emotional connection to everything in their home, it's just like everything takes off. It's magnificent. And you can see them looking at stuff going, why have I got this? Why have I had this for however many years? And, for us here in the UK, and I think perhaps to a slightly lesser degree in the States, we've still got the generation who were the war babies. And they grew up with rationing, being expected to make, do, and mend. So every spare piece of wood, every bit of string, every elastic band has all been saved somewhere just in case somebody might start another war and we're going to need all of these bits of wood we're going to need to turn the curtains into a dress or, make use of that tablecloth for whatever, so they've kept all of this stuff and it's stacked up in cupboards and in rooms, in garages, in the spare bedroom. They've got so much stuff in the spare bedroom that their children can't come and stay, and then they wonder why nobody comes to visit. So these are things that we just delve into and create the space and the joy in being in the home all over again. And once you do that, the weight of the house, the weight of the unmade decisions just drops away. And it really does smooth the process for getting the house on the market and selling it. And of course, yes, I do use Feng Shui to help my clients understand, right, okay, here are your Feng Shui guas. Here is the area related to money. Here is the area related to your health. Here's the area related to your relationship. Okay, what have we got there? Is it helping you? What about this area to do with your new beginnings? Selling your place. It's really about activating your new beginnings. It's also about activating your helpful friends because you want a really great realtor who is totally focused on getting your home sold to the right buyer. You do not want a buyer who's going to pull out at the last moment or, try and drop the price just, for the sake of it. You want your helpful friends all on board. So when I'm able to work with my clients and we talk about the Feng Shui Bagua and each of the areas and what it means, and then we overlay that onto their home just to indicate what's happening in each of those areas, it's like the lid comes off the box and suddenly it's, yes, this is all making sense. This is what we can do. Okay, well, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that and I'm going to move this here. And, sometimes they actually fall in love with their homes all over again and decide that actually they don't need to move because they've got plenty of space. And sometimes I'll just say, yeah, actually, I'm not even just going to move down the road. I am going to move completely away and I'm going to live the life that I want to live right now on my terms. And it's so exciting to see them doing that. And of course, if they then also don't just use the Bagua to understand what's going on in their home, but they also implement the Feng Shui remedies, even though they're selling the home, then when people come to view, the home welcomes them because you know what a fully Feng Shuied home's like. You walk in there and it's like stepping into a really happy Sunday afternoon and it wraps its arms around you. It says, welcome home. And that is the impact of really great Feng Shui. You won't see it. It's not trinkets and knickknacks. It's the energy when you step through that door and the home says, come on in.
Yes.
You're here at last, So yeah, that's the magic of Feng Shui, the selling homes. And it's just incredible.
It is. And there's a few things I want to touch on that you mentioned is once the client gets through that decluttering process, and you mentioned they fall in love with their house all over again. And it is so true, because you're now able to see your home in a new light. And the other thing that I noticed when we sold our home, it's been about 7 months now, and we decluttered to the max, and not because of like, well, I guess it has to do with my understanding of Feng Shui, but it was more about, we were moving to a whole new state. And for me, my home was a 9 uh, address as well. So it really held that energy of endings and new beginnings. And alongside it being a move in general, it really did represent that in so many different ways, that I knew I didn't even want to take anything. Like, I really wanted to pack my clothes and drive in the car and be done with it. And we did that. Like, we were able to sell most of the furnishings with the home to the buyers that bought it, because I had it staged in such a way. And you had touched on it. You might not need a professional stager, but if you're living in the home and you've decluttered and you've recreated this environment that you yourself love, like, love is the ultimate, like, feeling, emotion, right? If you can imbue that into your home, it will be felt, right? And
It does. It's tangible.
it really is. It really is. And I even remember when they showed up to do the MLS photos for the house after I had it staged by myself. Um, that light, it was like the perfect day. The light was just filtering the living room in such a beautiful way. And like, I'll even still now, like I said, it's been 7 months. I'll go back to the MLS and I'll just look at it. And I'm like, you're so adorable. I love that home. I mean, I really love that home. That home represented a lot. My husband and I have been through financial distress. Our very first home we bought together, we bought in the financial crisis that hit in 2008. We had to lose our home. We had to file a bankruptcy. So the home that we just recently sold was like our comeback home. And it signified so much of that energy. But what I had found was I had to also detach myself from that
That
home.
is so important. And this is what, when we're working through this process, if I've got one person who really doesn't want to move and the other one who's pushing it, I'll actually be doing some coaching with each of them to say, okay, can you tell me what this is all about? Because if you've got one person who doesn't want to move, that is going to make life so much more difficult for everybody. And the thing is, it's going to make the detachment from that property impossible to achieve. And these are the properties that will then stay on the market. And, they won't understand why it's not selling, why they're having to keep doing open days. What is going on? What is going on? And it's because somebody is just not prepared to let go. And until you get to that stage, and I'm thinking about a truly lovely man I worked with, and he had owned this house for 60 years, getting on 60 years, and it was next door to the house that he had grown up in. So, it's a very, very major thing. And it had been on the market and it had had some tentative offers, but nothing. And we'd done all of the Feng Shui stuff to make it sell. And it still wasn't happening. And so I said to him, come on, tell me what's going on. And he said, oh, I'm just not sure. Is it the right thing? Is it the wrong thing? And so we did some coaching. And finally, he decides, yes, it's time to let go. So I said, right, there's just one last little Feng Shui thing we can do. And we followed this through. And we took this particular item out of the house and we went to a fast flowing river. And he threw this thing into the river. And you just know that it washes away. He had an offer on that house within 2 days, which was accepted. And to say that sale went through, and here in the UK, house selling it's a pain, frankly. It's not very well organized, but it went through so smoothly. And before you knew it, I was up there helping him, oversee the removal guys, getting his stuff into the van and off to his new life. And he is romping now. He just loves everything that's going. He's living in a completely different part of the country. He's happy. He's got all of these new opportunities coming to him. Now, this guy is already well into his 70s, but he is not going to stop enjoying life because he's suddenly found out how he can do that in a home that supports him. He's moved to a very, very auspicious new feng shui home, which is, probably the next thing we're going to talk about, finding the new place.
Yeah, yeah, I think that's a perfect segue. So for buying, I think, there's obviously some things that similarly align with selling. What can you offer for those looking to buy? What are
I
some
think,
things they should do?
as we talked about at the beginning of the program, there are many different kinds of feng shui. And my preference, having tried various different kinds over the 35 years that I've been doing this, is that I work with Flying Stars Feng Shui. And one of the wonderful things about Flying Stars is it tells you about the house type, the outline energy of the house. Before you get into the particular remedies you need inside, you'll know that there are 4 house types. There's a house that's good for people and good for money. Wonderful place to live. Things just go well there. Relationships are good, health's good, the money flows in. Then you have got the house that is good for people, but it's bad for money. And so here you've got the good health, you've got the happy family, the strong relationship, but never ever enough money at the end of the month. Then you've got a house which is good for money, but it's real bad for people. These are the places where the kids act up, where you will find that the house has been sold because of divorce over and over and over again. It's also a bit prone to poor health, chronic illness, cancers, but just the silly stuff as well, like falling off your bike or tripping on a curbstone or getting long COVID. You're more susceptible in a house that's bad for people. But the great thing is that because it's good for money, there's always money to throw at the therapies, at the divorce, at anything else. You can get the best lawyers and so on. The last house type is bad for people and it's bad for money. So it's kind of your perfect storm of a house in terms of life is just going to be so much more stressful and so much more difficult. It's from personal experience, it's like living in quicksand until you get your remedies in. So what I do when I'm working with somebody who wants to find a new home is the first thing we'll do is understand the basic feng shui energy of the place. So before we think about anything else, we're thinking about that feng shui energy and identifying, right, okay, so if this is a house that's bad for people, what do we need to do to rectify that? Now, it's a lot easier to rectify a house that's bad for people and neutralize that negative energy than it is to rectify a house that's bad for money. If you've got bad for both, there are things that you do. We can fix it, but, it's just more of an effort. Once we've got those things sorted out, then we can really look at what's going on inside the house. What is the energy like inside the house? How has it supported the people who have lived there before? What's happened to the people who've lived there before? Has it been a long-term rental with a lot of families churning through or individuals? Have the family been there for 50 years? And, we're all going out hand in hand singing Christian songs, whatever. What's going to happen with this? What's happened with the house in the past, unless you are going to take it right back to basics, you're going to remodel completely. If you're going to do that, the energy will change. But otherwise, you're going to be experiencing the same energy as the previous people. So what do we need to do to rebalance that? What do we do to make that right? What else is going on in the area? Is it next to a church? Is it near a cemetery? Where does it sit in terms of main roads that shift the energy around? Are you close to a hospital or an emergency unit that, again, might have challenging energy floating around it? So then we'll go and look at all of these aspects, see what's going on, and then how can we make this house work for them if it's the one that they want. But the first thing is always understand the house type. And then even if you've chosen a house that's bad for people and bad for money because it's in the perfect location and you're going to remodel it anyway, then we go, great, okay, what do we need to do to get this? So these are the things that we'll start with. If I'm viewing properties, I will go around and I will read the house using my interiors therapy methods, and I'll know what's going on in that house, even if the realtor isn't telling me necessarily what is right in front of my eyes. I mean, you've probably realized from when you were doing your house hunting, you could walk into a home and you knew if there was a divorce happening there. You know, there are signs and energies and symptoms that if you know what you're looking for, you can tell what is happening to the people in a house. Are they getting on? Are they unwell? Are they struggling with their mental health? You can see all of this stuff. It's almost written on the walls when you know what you're looking for. So part of what I do with my clients is that they will get all of this outline information, you know, look for this, look for this, look for this.
I love that. I don't know a ton about flying stars, but I have read a little bit, and hearing you talk about it, it does make sense. I don't talk about sighting so much on like the podcast, or I haven't shared that with my community, but it is really the first step in selecting a property, is really understanding the land, because I mean, as you know, but for the audience, like that is where Feng Shui originated. It was land sighting. So the interesting thing that's going on with me personally is, as I just mentioned, we sold our home 7 months ago for my husband's job relocation. And we are just the go with the flow kind of family. We don't really, we try to not hold on to resistance. We just are like, yeah, this is what's next. And we just have a lot of faith and a lot of trust in, you know, the flow of life. And so we were on board. We get here. We decided to rent because we're in Texas. We've never been to Texas, so a completely new area. And then we decided to buy a home, which we just moved in 3 weeks ago. We moved in, and then just last week, his employer is looking to relocate him again out of state.
Oh no, out
So,
of state.
yeah, to Florida now. Now, the interesting thing is my husband and I have a past in Florida. That is where we bought our first home that I mentioned that we lost. So there is something about this whole transaction that feels very full circle.
Oh,
I
there's
didn't
definitely karma going on there, isn't
Yes,
there?
I didn't expect such a wide circle, but it feels like it's a new we were there in our 20s. So it's like, I feel like my 20-year-old self is like, woohoo, we're going back, because I feel like we left, like we were forced to leave because of our circumstance. And so maybe there wasn't like full closure there. That's what's coming up for me. And I'm trying to not dwell on why did we get sent here and why did we have to go through this home buying process and now we have to sell the house. I'm trying not to go down that rabbit hole, because I know it's really only down the road and looking back on it retrospectively that it's really going to make sense to me or my family. So yes, we are in a tight real estate situation, you know, where we just bought, we have no equity in the home. We even made a few investments with, you know, things like appliances and motorized shades, and we are not going to get that back. So we are trying to look at this from so many different angles. And so in that situation, I'm just curious, you know, what intuitively comes up for you as far as quick sale, because we do want to go. You know, everything is still in negotiation with his employer, and we need to make sure that, you know, they can cover a good deal of expenses until the home sells and all of that. But I'm just curious, when a situation like that, where there's almost a desperate need to sell, um, and quickly, because I'd like to get the kids in school at the beginning of the next year, this
September,
summer.
of course. Yeah.
So
Okay. So yeah, this is a really, really interesting scenario, isn't it? Because where was it that you'd moved from to come to
Pennsylvania.
Texas? Pennsylvania.
Yes.
So Pennsylvania has said, thank you very much. Thank you for your time. Off we go. And you've come to Texas. Actually, I was working in Texas with a family 3 weeks ago. I was there in Katy.
Oh, that's not far. I'm in Austin, so
Yeah.
that's not far.
Okay. Yeah. So, flew into Houston, did the thing for 3 days, flew out again. You know, it was amazing. So yeah, you've got a home that you need to sell and you need to sell quickly. And I'm thinking probably if you've only been there 3 weeks, you've got an awful lot of stuff still in boxes that you aren't quite ready to unpack. That might be a slight issue for you. Now, your house is clearly ready, but you were saying earlier that there's still construction going on around you.
Right.
So does this mean it's obviously a new build, your place?
Yes. Correct.
Okay. So you've got you've got that new build kudos, and you've got those appliances and bits and pieces that you've got in there that other people now do not have to buy. That makes your place a more exciting proposition than one that is going to just, be appliance free when somebody moves it. That's the first thing to think about. I think it would be really worth you understanding the basic energy of your home right now. Because if you can then get the Feng Shui to and I know I'm talking flying stars here, but here it is so useful to be able to tune into that energy and put the remedies in that will, as I said, make the person who walks in there feel like they've hit the jackpot with your home and they don't want to wait a single moment more to get it. So understanding the essential energy of your home will then allow you to make it feel so perfect for the person that the realtor brings round to have a look at it, that they don't even want to look anywhere else. They want to come straight for your place. But what I would absolutely say to you, and you know this anyway, you've staged your home. Having stacks of boxes around is not going to help you. It's not going to help your prospective buyer. And it's also not going to help the house because the house is currently very confused about what's going on. Hey, I had my new, oh, you're leaving. Is it something I said?
Right.
So, you're going to need to just tune into the energy of the house. Explain that this is going on. You've loved your time here and you're sorry it's been so short, but, you're now moving on again. And then just allow the house to be released to the right person. And also, make your manifesto for the new home in Florida. Don't necessarily go back to that self-same area that you came from.
No, it won't be.
You can avoid it. But really, make a manifesto for the home. You can also make a manifesto for this home you're in now that, you release it with joy and happiness. You wish it the best possible buyer, the perfect new family to live there and enjoy being part of the community and the neighborhood. And, I'm a big fan of getting gratitude. I'm sure you know about gratitude. Actively do your gratitudes to say, I'm so grateful that the house has sold quickly to the perfect buyer. I'm so grateful that our sale process was run so smoothly and we now have our perfect new home in Florida. The thing about gratitude, of course, which is totally off the subject of general homes and buying and selling, but you can use gratitude in every way. Once you get the hang of gratitude, you can be grateful for things that haven't happened yet. And once you're creating that energy around you, you make things a whole lot easier for that to come to you in a really, really positive way.
Love it. I'm sitting here shaking my head because I'm agreeing with everything you're saying. I just love, these are things that I talk about and I might share with my husband or whoever. And it's so lovely to hear another person just be right on the same page with me. And it's like, yes, that is what we need to do. And that's selling the first home. That's exactly what I did. I had a manifesto for that and it was just, it worked, and I'm finally at the stage of, not being so surprised when it works anymore, and that's when I know I'm starting to really trust that process, that flow of life that, I mentioned earlier in the show. Like, there is a real energetic flow to life, and we just have to tap into it, right?
There is a reason that you are no longer meant to be where you are,
Mhm.
and that life is pushing you in a new direction. And you can fight it. You can fight it as hard as you like. But if that is what is meant to happen, then no matter how hard you try, how many anchors you set to keep you in place, the universe has a very, very is funny the right word? It can be very dramatic if you don't listen to the messages, if you don't heed what it's trying to do for you, it will make it happen. I was meant to leave a job. I didn't want to leave a job. I stayed in the job. The universe tried it, flung so many things at me. In the end, I broke my hip.
Oh, wow.
I couldn't do it comfortably anymore. But it's just like, okay, finally, I'm listening. This is where you're at.
Yeah.
This was a short term. It's like your birds are lighting on a branch before you fly off for the next part of your journey. You had to be there for whatever reason. Now it's time to move on.
Yeah.
And just accept it and go with the flow. Feng Shui is all about flow.
All about the flow.
Flow yourselves into a new home with superb energy. Like, it could be that you've inadvertently got a property that really wasn't going to work out for you. And you're so attuned to your energy that actually the universe is helping you out by moving you forward rather than hanging around too long.
Yeah, and I feel that. I do feel that. I was surprised at how excited I was because I hadn't really even considered maybe moving, obviously, you know? And when the opportunity came, there was this immediate excitement, which tells me it's the right thing,
Definitely the right thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, well, farewell, Austin. Hello,
Yes.
Florida.
Exactly. So there we go. I want to touch on, before we wrap up, I do want to touch on your foundation. Yeah, you call it interiors therapy, which I love the terminology that you use there. I'd love to hear you talk a little bit about that because, as we said in the beginning, I resonate so much with what you're doing in particular. So,
Oh, I too. I love interior therapy. I so do. I mean, I have been working in Feng Shui and decluttering for 35 plus years, which is horrific to admit out loud because in my head, I'm convinced I'm still 35. So, here we are. Um, I I developed interior therapy because what I realized for so many people was they would do some decluttering, the clutter would come back. They didn't understand the impact of clutter on their emotional well-being, their physical health, and they didn't understand how to reframe their home after they had dealt with the clutter. And so what would happen is it would just come back, or they would get frustrated, or they'd just go and buy the same things over and over again. And then I trained as a performance coach, which was very, very useful to help understand more of the psychology of what was going on in people's heads when they were doing this. And I also got very involved with the law of attraction, manifesting homes here and there. It's a very, very fantastic thing to do. Manifesting all kinds of amazing situations. And so I thought, right, okay, here I have these 5 crucial elements that I can put together and I can term it interior therapy because I've got my feng shui, I've got my space clearing. So let's put it together. And the first word you're going to know and love is about getting clarity on everything you own. We've talked about this already. What's it doing to your emotional state? Is it a positive impact, negative? Is it neutral? Your kettle is probably a very neutral thing, but there might be a mug in your cupboard that your ex used all the time. And every time you see it, you think of him. So that's not helping you having that in your cupboard, so let's let that go. So getting the clarity on the stuff, then dealing with the clutter. Clutter, as you know, is unique to absolutely everybody. So I can't waltz into a home that's got 3 people living in it and assume that what person number 1 tells me is actually clutter as far as the husband's concerned, and vice versa. The husband might think his wife's got too many pairs of shoes, but the wife might equally feel that she's sick to death of all the bits of wood in the husband's garage. So getting into the clarity, then the clutter, and then we clear. And this is, I'm not a fan of housework. Here in the UK, we've got Mrs. Hinch. She's an absolute, she loves to clean. I don't. But the joy of having a house with very little clutter and lots of wide open spaces and light, bright rooms is that you really don't get much in the way of dirt and grime. If nothing else, cluttering makes cleaning so much easier. So this is where we deep clean the home. And we notice where the cobwebs are, because of course the cobwebs are showing us where there's stagnant, sticky energy. And then we can refer that back to the Feng Shui bagua and say, okay, right, well, this explains it. This explains why every time I try and travel somewhere, my plane gets delayed or my car breaks down, because I've got a load of stagnant energy in my travel and helpful friends area. So let's fix this. And when you've got your home beautifully clean and fresh, this is the time for step 4, which is about consolidating. And, we've all heard that phrase, the Aristotle, nature abhors a vacuum. This is where a lot of people hit the barriers. They hit the buffers because they've done all the decluttering, they've done the cleaning, but they don't consolidate the change in energy of their home. And when you don't consolidate it, you leave a gap for the clutter to come floating back in again. Sometimes it's fast, sometimes it's slow, but you turn around and after 6 weeks, suddenly the piles are there again. You don't want that. So this is where we can use Feng Shui to balance the energy in a home, to harmonize and bring this new level of positivity into the space while squishing the negative energy, which inevitably 5 areas of your home in any year are going to have some sticky, nasty, icky energy. We want to balance that out. We want to remedy that so it's not impacting us in any way, shape, or form. And then we also want to boost the really positive stuff. So we're using the Feng Shui to sort that out. And then we get going with the space clearing ceremony. Now, I love a space clearing ceremony. I'm sure you do too. Once you've done that big clean and then you do a space clearing, it's almost as though your home glows. It's like going, yeah, this is amazing. And once we've done a space clearing ceremony, we go out at least for 30 minutes or an hour and just allow the energy to settle back in to the house, allow the house to just sort of shake its shoulders and get comfortable again and go, yes. And then when you return, it's like a whole new house. It feels bigger. It feels lighter and brighter. It's so difficult to explain until you actually do it with somebody. Or I'll get a message saying, oh my gosh, we did this space clearing ceremony. It's incredible. We've done this and this has happened. And even the cat joined in, so it's fabulous. Once you've done all that, then the last stage of your interior therapy is that you create the life you want for yourself. And this is where you tune into the law of attraction to draw the energy of those things that you would like to have into your life. And I'm not just talking about the physical stuff. I'm talking about the energetic stuff, perhaps the new relationship or the better health or the new opportunities, the new job, the relocation to somewhere that you would choose to be. All of these things are now open for you to invite into your life. And that's where I use the manifesto process. I mean, we'll use the manifesto process for a home, a relationship, a job. I've had one girl use the manifesto process to get herself a job with an Instagrammable office. It's just like, yeah, that's what you want. Lovely. Let's go for it. So yeah, those 5 stages, the clarity, clutter, clear, consolidate, and create, are what goes into interiors therapy. And you're coached at each stage in order to make sure that you understand and that you're stepping into it. It's not lip service. It's a lifestyle. It's a whole new lifestyle. And, it's what shifted Jennifer Aniston out of her funk after her divorce. And she's now so much more fabulous. I mean, she was fabulous before, but now you can see how much she glows. And the people who are living this lifestyle, stepping into this lifestyle, they glow too. And it's magnificent to watch. I don't do it for them. They do it for themselves. And that is the crucial thing.
Yeah, that's what I love about it too. I think when you said about the console, I can't say the word.
Consolidation.
Yeah, the consolidation piece. That's where I was finding too, just doing a Feng Shui consultation was sort of like leaving clients hanging on the edge. And that's why I, like you, wanted to integrate more of a long-term relationship with a client to really help guide them all the way through the end and, empower them to integrate new principles and new practices in their life to keep the momentum that we build, like to keep it going and to stay the course. I think that I personally found that too to be really helpful and clients appreciate it more. Where, like you said, 3 months later, they'd be calling me like, I don't know what happened, but you know, I can't get a grip on my kitchen again. Like it's right back where it was, and I don't know what I'm doing wrong. And that's really when my practice shifted too. So um, I knew we were just sort of the same person out there.
Compatible, yeah.
And
Totally.
go ahead.
I was going to say, all of these TV shows where people go in and they transform and organize, the reason that we don't get the follow-up shows, 6 months later, their lives are wonderful, is because all the stuff's crept back. When you're doing decluttering, and yes, I go into houses, I do interiors therapy one-to-one with people. That's what I was doing in Texas a few weeks ago. But they are doing the work. I am guiding, I'm coaching, I'm giving them some great ideas. But where they decide to put something is their choice. Because if I make a decision on where, you should put your purses there, well, if that's not going to work for my client, then her purses are going to end up in a pile over there. So you've got to take ownership. You've got to be empowered to do this yourself. If you are, then it becomes so easy that, you get all of these do a declutter calls, don't you? For me, if somebody is having to declutter every year, I failed because, they've not got the message.
Right.
Once you work with interiors therapy, you get such a low tolerance for clutter and stuff that isn't serving you. You don't even give it a house room. The money that saves people is epic.
Yes.
I mean, it's thousands and thousands of pounds a year in some families on not buying stuff that actually they really don't use, need, or love.
Yes, I talk about that all the time, that once you declutter, now you become a more conscious consumer and you really, really pay attention to what you allow into your home. And that then becomes your first step. And it's much easier to move forward from that step than it is to declutter.
It's so much easier and, a happier lifestyle as well. Because if you're not burdened by stuff, then you can get on and enjoy life.
Yes.
If, when you've got clutter, it's pure procrastination.
Right.
I don't know what to do with it, so I'm not going to do it. And, people keep stuff through habit, fear, guilt, confusion. The worst reason to keep stuff is through spite. But you still see it often in divorces. I just, when I go into a divorce house, if we're house hunting and we walk into a divorce house, I say, oh yeah, okay, so that's there. Yeah, I know this is a divorce house, even if I'm being told that this is a happy couple and they're moving on somewhere else. Yeah, don't talk rubbish to me. So I'm saying to my clients, right, this is now what you need to take into account here, that we will need to remedy out this divorce energy for you to be comfortable and happy here. So yeah, learn the hard way. learn the hard way or get your Feng Shui done. You
There you
choose.
go. There you go.
Okay.
So, Suzanne, I know you wrote a book. I would love to hear you just speak about that, what that's about, where we can find it, and where we can find more information about you and anyone who might be considering an interiors therapy consultation with you.
For sure. So the book, which is my joy, is called Welcome Home: How Stuff Makes or Breaks Your Relationship. And you can get that on Amazon or order through your local bookstore. I always love it when people go to local bookstores and ask them to order a book, because that's what these bricks and mortar stores are for. So yes, you can get it on Kindle and you can get it on audiobook as well, with me reading it to you. How do you get in touch with me? Interiorstherapy.com is the website. When you go to the website, you can click on the button that says book an inspiration call, and that will take you to my calendar. And for £9, which I think is about $11, $12 maybe, you can have me walk around your home with you on video for half an hour, and I'll tell you what I think's going on, how I can help you, and how best you can move the energy of your home forward. So that's a lovely thing to do. I love working with people, obviously one-to-one in their homes, but you can accomplish so much on video. You'll also find me on Instagram as interiors_therapy and Facebook, and I tend to pop up in places like Homes and Gardens magazine because I'm one of their guest contributors. So yeah, we talk Feng Shui, and we talk Feng Shui for real homes with real people. I'm not going to tell you that, or you can't use that part of your home for a year because the energies are bad there, or you must have your front door facing at this particular angle. No, Feng Shui is about real people in real homes living real lives. And that's what my goal is, to get it out there. The book talks through the interiors therapy process. It touches on traditional Feng Shui, but because I'm aware that so many people use black hat or Western Feng Shui with the front door as their entry point, I go into a lot of detail about that as well, so that people can dip their toe in the water safely and see how Feng Shui feels for them. So yeah, lots of ways to get in touch with me, and lots of inspiration, I hope, along the way.
Yes, it was so lovely to have you here. There's a wealth of information on your website. I was spending my morning looking and reading. It's all such great stuff. You are a treat. I'm so happy that our paths have crossed. And thank you for being here. Thank you so much.
It's been a total joy. Thank you for making me so welcome.
You're welcome. Thanks again. If you want access to Suzanne and all of her offerings, everything you need in order to connect with her is in the episode show notes. As I mentioned in today's show, my family and I are relocating to Florida in a few short months, and due to that, I'm working on my own decluttering process, both personally and in business. I'm clearing out the shop inventory so that I can reevaluate and realign with what I want to carry going forward. There's a lot of transition happening with Jade Scott Design and Shop Elemental, so if there's anything you've been eyeing up, now is the time to make your purchase. As a thank you, you will receive 40% off your entire purchase along with free shipping. The discount is automatically applied at checkout. As always, you can connect with me on social at Jade Scott Design, and please remember to support the podcast by leaving a positive review on Spotify, YouTube, or Apple Podcasts. Until next week, I am sending you so much love and gratitude.